Joining us now, also in the studio, Public Service Commissioner of the Mississippi Central District. That'd be Brent Bailey. Good morning there, Commissioner. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me once again.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk first about what's going on with these possible fines on these companies that seem to be continuously breaching the no call.
That is no doubt. They seem to be around every corner at every time of the day, and you name the topic, the subject matter, they're going to be trying to sell you on it or scam you on it or get some information from you that possibly used against you or take your belongings or clean out your bank account. So it's always encourage customers and consumers to be on top of their game when they're getting calls from numbers they do not recognize or from callers that seem to be suspect in the presentation that they're putting forth to you.
So what do they do to get off the list?
Yeah, so in these calls, as we've talked about in some of our materials of the last few weeks, it's people think it seems like it's happening all the time, and it really is. Just in the first 10 months of 2021, there were 42.8 billion robocalls made in the U.S. Just in the state of Mississippi in the month of October, 40 million calls came into the state. That's about 13.8 calls per person. That's 15 calls every second.
Unbelievable.
It is just, and all they have to do is just a 0.1% of the time successful in acquiring your belongings. It makes it worth their while, and these guys have it down to an art. So, we were so pleased to be able to at least offer and put forth notice of alleged violations to 8 different groups that we've been able, through the diligence of consumers out there, providing to us the information around the scam and calls they have received, providing us those numbers, the time, helping with their carrier provider. It gives us the tools we need to further investigations and accumulate as those numbers come in from across the state, not just within the Central District. Be able to pull that together, and through these notice of alleged violations, we use these as tools to begin to reach out and determine, are these folks, do they have valid offices or areas of operation, to ensure it's just not some guy sitting in a basement doing this. And by their response, it allows us to begin the process of really evaluating what that violation looks like, the ability to determine their locale of operation so we can pursue them and provide them with a summons, additional subpoenas, structure the complaint as necessary, where we can then hopefully apply fines and issue an order. So it's one step in the judicial process, part of due process, and it's one of several. But again, it is good to get to this point, because that means we have certainly identified the perpetrator, the violator, potential alleged violator in this, and we have something to really go after. So many times the numbers we receive because they're spoofed or run through various networks, they turn out to be dead ends. These have shown that they are calls originating from a particular source, multiple calls at that. Mm-hmm. And so we were able to accumulate the tools, working with the Attorney General's office, our no-call investigators, and others, subpoenas to the carriers, getting that information is really helping us build that case. But it's one step in a large process, but it's good to be able to identify these folks and show customers that their participation, their contributions through their time of submitting these numbers, and through our no-call app, through written, through calling in to our no-call folks, filing these complaints online, it really assists us in allowing us to go after these violators.
So it's key then for consumers, if they're being targeted, they need to report it. How do they do it?
It does. So we have our no-call app you can download.
Okay.
You can go online and file it through our complaint process on our PSC website. Mm-hmm. We have 3 no-call investigators within the Central District and others in the other parts of the district. Reach out to them through our 1-800 that can be found online. And also you can download a form, and you can fill those out And you can make multiple copies, and as these calls come in, write them down, jot them down, record them, and send to them, in a bulk, once a week or once a month. And you wouldn't believe how many we actually get mailed into the office on a frequent basis.
Really?
So, the diligence of these folks out there, our customers, our constituents, hats off to them for assisting us in this process.
Right. So someone on the C-Spire text line says, if the technology to spoof calls exists, then certainly the technology to block it exists. It's as you know, it's a cat and mouse game. I kind of liken it to radar and radar detectors. Yeah. That you come up with technology to detect it, right?
It's a game.
And block radar from tracking you.
One improves the other.
Right.
And there are tools out there, our no-call app. There are tools that the carriers can provide, the various providers of telecommunication services. They have helped develop things. You can download. There's mechanisms on your smartphones that help with that. In many cases, you can block anybody who's not in your call list.
Yeah.
Of course, that may prevent emergency calls or calls you're really expecting from an unknown number. And then there's third-party calls, third-party tools and apps that you can go online and download, and I've heard these are very effective as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of firewalls, a lot of tools that can be utilized. It's just, really determining what level of protection and what level of resistance are you willing to put forth out there.
It's really no different than the whole realm of digital cybersecurity. It's you've got all these incredibly powerful, sophisticated tools to protect against breach and unwanted intrusion. But the bad guys, they've got very good technology to get around all that. So it's just a constant cat and mouse game, and it's
from a direction you never expected.
That's right. So, all right. So you got that going on. Yeah. I got to ask you this. So there is so much money that's been poured into the state, and more coming with respect to build out of rural broadband.
Mm-hmm.
When are we done? It's like every time I turn around, there's more money coming. So this infrastructure plan that the president just signed, it's got another big jump. We had money that came down through COVID relief that got distributed and is being tapped and used by certainly the electric co-ops to a great extent right now to light up the rural areas where they service from an electrical perspective. But it just seems like that there's just more money. Do we have a map somewhere, Commissioner, that says this is what we call the white space that's not yet lit up, that's still yet to be connected, and this is how much it's going to cost to connect them?
There are maps out there through the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC. They're rural broadband maps. They're not the most accurate in the world. Yeah. Many times they show areas shaded that says, yes, these are covered, but that's not always the case. And certainly not at speeds that consumers won't demand nowadays. 10.1, 25.3, those no longer support the multiple devices and the type of activity, streaming, gaming, other working from home, schooling from home. When you pancake all those demands on each other, the performance is just not there where we need anymore.
Yeah.
And through the CARES Act money that came through, that the broadband that the cooperatives are now utilizing, most of that's going in as a 100 up, 100 down minimum.
Okay.
And opportunities to really expand that going forth. Some of them will be potentially offering gigabit tier speed in rural areas. I mean, hey, that's good stuff. But you're right, all that money coming down through the CARES Act, the American the ARPA rescue plan, back in March, I believe.
Yeah, signed by
money
Biden.
Coming there. All the money that was won through the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, $495 million there.
Right.
And the $100 million minimum coming to the state. Other money coming to the legislature. There's a lot of avenues. We don't have, unfortunately, a really centralized way to track and make sure that's distributed property. But the PSC, through our eligible telecommunications certification review, allows us a window into how that is being done on an annual basis.
Gotcha.
Still a lot of work to be done. We have a long way to go. We've made a lot of progress, but it's going to be exciting over the next couple of years to really see this build-out take place.
Hang around if you want. I'm sure you got more to talk about.
Yeah, we certainly can. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we got Commissioner Brent Bailey. He is the Commissioner of the Public Service Commission in Mississippi's Central District. We'll step aside for a break on Middays. We'll be right back. Rhino, we got Brent Bailey, the Public Service Commissioner of Mississippi's Central District. 3 districts in Mississippi, right? North, South, Central.
That's it. And I got to say, your bumper music, sir, gets folks fired up. It gets you rocking up. It takes you out of a set and brings you into another one feeling good, tapping your feet.
All the credit to Rhino there. He's a man. He's a man on that. All right, so on the C Spire text line, I get this a lot, Brent.
Mm-hmm.
This is your district, I believe. No internet, high-speed internet in northeast Madison County. Who would be responsible for that?
So, interesting aspect. That is not an area served by a rural electric cooperative.
Right. 17
of 25 rural electric cooperatives in the state are beginning to deploy and provide broadband services. That area is served by an investor-owned utility Entergy. So there are now opportunities through legislation last year allow the investor-owned utilities to potentially partner with third-party IRPs to use their middle mile and backbone and fiber communications amongst their system to help deploy in the rural areas. It's incremental steps to get there. You got to identify it, funding source. Your text may not be aware, but the Board of Supervisors of Madison County, they've actually taken the step of hiring a broadband consultant to really go in and evaluate where the areas lack that service, beginning to evaluate what type of technology is best suited. Is it fiber to the home? Is it wireless? Is it some other hybrid system? And then even help identify a provider who can help come in, deploy, pursue grants, maybe some state, federal leverage, and then serve that area of Madison County, maybe even partner with resources from homes and others. So, everybody's doing things a little different, and kudos to Madison County going out there and really taking the bull by the horns and understanding the lack of service, the incumbent providers due to density issues and lack of population. Serving those areas just don't meet their financial models. Yeah. And that's just the reality of free market telecommunications. Yeah. And this is a way to help kind of bridge that, leverage these, as we said earlier, these taxpayer dollars, these public dollars to help get now what is determined to be a critical essential service to homes. Yeah, I want to be clear about that. None of this is possible without the taxpayer. The bottom line is that the economics do not work. Having been in the business, I just know that the economics do not work to go plant fiber in the ground all over the countryside and serve very sparsely populated areas with high-speed internet. So many parts of our state have number of customers per line mile in the single digits. Right. Doesn't work economically. If only 30 to 40% of those are subscribing to the service, it really makes the economics challenging. Yeah, for $100 a month or something. And then people complain about that. And I got to tell you, my experience dealing with wide area network connectivity is what we used to call it in the old days, a WAN, wide area network, as opposed to a LAN, a local area network. And that technology has just absolutely just blossomed tremendously since the early days of that in the 90s. But I remember customers spending $20,000 to $30,000 a month for 25 to 40 meg. Okay, so what can you get now for $25,000? I mean, you could own the phone company almost. Right. But so the advances in technology have driven the price down by orders of magnitude, literally. Now, no consumers could afford anything like that. That would be a business customer. Just to give you an idea of how much prices have declined precipitously, and it's all totally a function of advances in technology. One of the big breakthroughs is when installing fiber became more practical and a lot less risky because we came up with technology, the folks that make the fiber, to make it a lot less susceptible. I'm not even saying that right. Susceptible. I can't say it. But anyhow. Flexible? Yeah. To bends. Bend, not break. Susceptible. Yeah. Is susceptible to breakage. Right. So when that advanced to the point where you could plant fiber and not have to worry about that,
That's what made all this possible. So it's taxpayer money that is the key here. My concern, however, Commissioner, having been in the business again, just coming from that perspective, is that it's one thing to fund the capital cost associated with installing fiber and connecting to homes all the way back to the central core network where services is received from the carriers to distribute that internet to the subscribers. But there's also a lot of ongoing recurring costs associated with maintaining those networks and supporting customers.
It is that, and that's where we hope as these networks, these fiber lines extend out to rural areas, we hope folks take advantage of it. Subscribe. By subscribing to that, that's where these revenues continue to be generated and sustain and ensure that the system remains intact, connected. You're receiving the service you demand, customer service, emergency services, whatever. We got to have participants as well. Yeah. And there's going to be tools out there as part of some of this legislation that was signed at the federal level to provide financial assistance to homeowners through what used to be called the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program. Now it's called the, I think, the American Accessibility something or another. And it's a subsidy, but it helps introduce folks to these new services, and you hope in short time they become reliable paying customers for this critical service as we continue to be more comfortable working from home, learning from home, doing telehealth and other communications and business activities behind your laptop, over your phone, talking to Alexa or Siri or whoever you have conversations with.
So in the case of a subscriber or potential subscriber and an address that consumes power from a traditional for-profit power company such as Entergy, I don't think they've announced any plans, have they, to deploy internet?
Nothing yet. That doesn't mean they're working diligently behind the scenes to help facilitate that. And they know that's something that the Commission, myself, my colleagues are encouraging them to do as they continue to expand, improve, modernize their grid with future-proof telecommunication opportunities and leverage that for the benefit of rural Mississippians and others. Yeah. So we're anxious to see when and where that goes, but we know there's a lot of communications and conversations going on.
Would they qualify for the federal grants?
That's a good question.
It's kind of iffy, isn't it?
And some of the new language that I was reading in the infrastructure bill really opens it up to profits, nonprofits.
That's what I thought. What about traditional carriers, AT&T, et cetera, C-Spire, for profit?
I think it's very possible the way I interpreted that. Me too. Now, how others and legals interpret it as well, it may have some challenges way down in the fine print that I didn't get to, but it certainly seems to have a much broader impact of where that can be applied. So in general,
an Entergy customer, or even what about Mississippi Power on the coast? Is that who covers the coast, right?
Yes, and they all, as they improve their communications, their fiber network, and opportunities to share that, release it out, however you want to look at it. Yep. I don't think either one of them wants to be in the business of telecommunications serving broadband, but with the proper protections and protocols and cyber protections, things like that, I think they're more than happy to lease out that fiber because that's revenues coming in that can flow back to the customer while providing a service in rural areas that may not be provided by your incumbent telecoms due to the economic.
Of course, that assumes that they install fiber because they don't have fiber to service addresses.
That's customers. Right. I mean, it have to be a good financially stable third party to do that. Right. And there's plenty out there, I think, ready and willing to do it. Again, if they can have that economic certainty that they'll get a reasonable return on their investment and can be solvent.
The electric co-ops, you said 17 to 25. Mm-hmm. Okay. What are they doing? And we got only a minute left here. Sure. How are they supporting their customers? Are they outsourcing that to third parties? Or are they building that out internally?
Most of them are doing it internally, creating a subsidiary. And really has been admirable of what they're doing. Not everybody has the same business model, but a lot of them are doing it internally and creating their office and it's a subsidiary. And you have a customer network and you got to Able Communications to market that service. So we're excited to see where it's going. We've seen a lot of good progress with these guys.
Sounds good. Brent, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, sir.
Brent,
anytime.
You got it. Brent Bailey, Public Service Commissioner of Mississippi Central District. We'll take a break right here. We'll come